You may never have heard of Abi al-Alhazen ibn al-Haytham. In the West, he is known as Alhazen, a Latin form of his Arabic first name, Alhazen, but his work is likely still useful to you today. He is considered one of the most important and influential figures in the history of science. In brief, because of the rigor of his experimental methods, Alhazen has been called the world's first true scientist. He discovered the principles upon which modern photography is based. His work on lenses led to the design and production of the first eyeglasses, microscopes, and telescopes. Alhazen was born in Basra, present-day Iraq. Around 965 CE, his interests included astronomy, chemistry, mathematics, medicine, music, optics, physics, and poetry. For what can we be grateful to him? A dam on the Nile. A story about Alhazen has long circulated. He supposedly intended to regulate the waters of the Nile, but it would take almost 1,000 years, until 1902, for such a project to be realized in Aswan. His ambitious project was to build a dam on the Nile, to control floods and droughts in Egypt. When the ruler of Cairo, Caliph al-Hakim, learned of the idea, he invited Alhazen to Egypt to build the dam. However, upon seeing the river with his own eyes, Alhazen realized he could not complete the project. Fearing that this reputedly unstable ruler would punish him, Alhazen feigned madness until the caliph's death 11 years later, in 1021. Meanwhile, confined due to his supposed mental illness, Alhazen had plenty of time to devote himself to other research. The treatise on optics. Before his release, Alhazen had written almost all of his 7-volume treatise on optics, considered one of the most important works in the history of physics. In it, he presents experiments on the nature of light, including how it decomposes into primary colors, is reflected by mirrors, and refracts when passing from one medium to another. He also studied visual perception as well as the anatomy and mechanics of the eye. In the 13th century, his work was translated from Arabic into Latin. For centuries afterward, European scholars cited it as a standard text. Thanks to Alhazen's writings on the properties of lenses, European eyeglass makers were able to invent the telescope and the microscope by placing lenses one in front of the other. The darkroom. Alhazen discovered the principles underlying photography by designing what is probably the first camera obscura in history. It was a closed, darkroom into which light entered through a pinhole-sized opening and projected an inverted image of what was outside onto an interior wall. A darkroom. Alhazen designed what is probably the first camera obscura in history. In the 1800s, photographic plates were added to darkrooms to permanently fix images. Thus, the camera was born. Modern cameras, like the human eye, use the same physical principles as the camera obscura **. It's all for today. See you soon for the part 2.